Hello, and thanks for coming.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, councillors, for making your way out as you've been shuffling in. I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning and been through a lot of great informative information. And I will say that I'm not only here as President of Hamilton District Labour Council, as many of you know me in that role, but I'm also here as the chair of the board of the Hamilton Community Benefits Network as well, because part of the discussions that I'm going to be talking about today will be with regards to community benefits. And I think that has a great deal of impact on some of the stuff that we've been talking about today. One of the most interesting points that got brought up in the very first panel this morning by Tom Cooper, both him and Paul Johnston, was the idea of the determinants of what healthy societies are and what healthy citizenry sparks up. And one of those key ones that came up, which I heard brought up in that first panel, but not so much after, I heard about it brought up a little bit, was the idea of good jobs and what constitutes a good job. We will constantly get information about jobs that have been created, but we know that jobs that are created these days are probably more than 3/4 precarious work. And the new generation of workers that are coming out of university and have been for the last 10 years and probably more for the next 10 to 15 years are going to be in a state where precarious work, unless we work on changing things, becomes the order of the day, and that becomes a problem. We also need to get past the idea, and one of the speakers got past this today as well, the idea that everything that we've discussed here today, we really should be looking at it through a lens of poverty. And I know that sounds strange, but if we can identify poverty as being one of, if not the key thing that we are trying to overcome in this city, then that lens has to be attached to all of the decisions that we make. And I think we miss that sometimes along the way. I think we miss that in sometimes looking at the nuts and bolts of what we are trying to implement, and we don't necessarily think of it from a poverty perspective. I'm bringing that up because in concert with some of the work that I do with the Hamilton Community Benefits Network, the idea is when we have things like public infrastructure and we have things like public projects, that we want to keep the jobs at home and we want to make those jobs good jobs. When we talk about Hamilton Community Benefits, one of the groups we're working with is the building trades in Hamilton, and the building trades want to go to groups like Metrolinx and other groups that we will eventually get in touch with regards to community benefits and say, we want a percentage of these jobs to be apprenticeship jobs, and not only apprenticeship jobs, but apprenticeship jobs that come from people who live in the area that the work is going to be done on and come from the communities of people that are in the area. In other words, racialized and marginalized communities and Indigenous communities. We need to give those workers entrance to the building trades. You can ask people in the building trades themselves, they will tell you. The bar for getting into the building trades sometimes is ridiculously difficult because it involves knowing somebody or having your family or having your... And that generational thinking in a lot of the building trades makes it sometimes very difficult to get in the door. We need to find ways to help break that down. And one of the ways is to have entry-level jobs, apprenticeship jobs. By doing that, by having community benefits as part of the decisions that we make, we start to think of, okay, now we have a jobs piece in place. We start to keep good jobs, which have pensions, which have benefits at home. That means more people paying taxes at home, because taxes aren't a bad thing. We need taxes. Can they sometimes be spent more effectively? Sure they can, but you can't escape the fact that the reason this building exists and the reason some of the great work that gets done in this room exists is because of the fact that we have people paying taxes. We have public services that are necessary and we need to do that. But further than that, we need to deal with community benefits by going into the communities. Right now, the Hamilton Community Benefits Network, we've been in place since about May of last year. We've currently got organizations combined which represent close to 100,000 Hamiltonians, including Labour Council, including Hamilton Food Share, Hamilton Food Bank. We've got housing groups, we've got anti-poverty groups, we've got the building trades. We want to be involved and we want to be a gateway to get to people in the communities as development happens in the city. We know development's happening. LRT is going to spawn a whole bunch of development. It already has. We saw the articles in the paper about a month ago about all of the different building permits that are coming in right now and requests. Communities need to have a say. Communities need to have a say from a grassroots level as to how that building impacts them. And it could mean something as simple as a splash pad or a community space, but it also needs to mean good jobs in the community. And once we have that understanding that everything that happens in this city is tied to everything else, that the good jobs come from the building, that the building comes into social housing, that all of those things are tied together, that's how we're going to help not only promote our own self in the city, but help to send a signal up to the province that the downloading, they need to start working in partnership with us instead of against us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marco. The next three are Sarah